I think one of my biggest pet peeves is sweet sparkling red wine, and we're all a victim of it, but I just feel if you're going to drink something that's sweet and sparkling, it should be champagne. Wine is very emotional, it's very personable. What you taste, what I taste could be completely different and we're drinking the same bottle of wine. But the idea with wine is it takes you to a place that makes you either very happy or very sad or very reminiscent of something. And I think that's the beauty, is you won't know how you're going to feel after you've had that first sip and where it's going to take you and what inspiration you're going to get from it. And I feel that it evokes a lot of emotions in people. My family and my husband's family has been in this sort of restaurant hotel business, so growing up around it, we've constantly been around wine. And so wine was sort of a common thing at the dinner table, and sort of the French influence. My husband's from Burundi, it's very francophone. And so wine and food just goes hand in hand, so we've sort of grown up around it. I always wanted to work at the UN, and that's what I did. I worked there for 10 years. I was working with UNEP, and I was doing environmental economy, carbon offsetting, blue economy, green economy, totally far away from the wine world. Something just changed, something flipped, circumstances changed, and I threw myself into this, and I'm loving it. As a woman in the wine business, it has got its fair share of challenges. Traditionally and predominantly it's been a male-dominated environment, but there are now a lot of female winemakers, which is encouraging for people that are now also in the business side of things. And I think that if you look at the Kenyan market right now, a lot of the women are leading the wine market and they're at the head of their positions. The wine shop has actually got its parent company in Uganda. We started this business about 20 years ago in Kampala and Rwanda. And so when we were starting Brew Bistro, we realized there was a niche in the market for select premium wines, and we felt there was too much saturation with South African wines. And so we wanted to bring in stuff that was a little bit different. We wanted to deal with suppliers that were transparent and open and honest, and supply, customer service, personal touch, personal relations was really lacking. So we opened this company about 2 years ago, and we're trying to conquer the wine market. I think Kenya is at a really prime spot right now. It's probably where South Africa was about 20 years ago. And the wine market is really booming. People really understand the wine culture now. There's a hunger for wine events. There's a hunger to learn more about wine. People are moving away from just asking for a sweet red, a sweet white. People are now actually asking for a particular grape variety. They're asking for country. They're asking for vintage. So there's definitely more awareness, and people are moving away from pop, alcohol pop, and spirits and stuff. And I think people are really engaging in wine now, which I think to be part of that now and to see the change happening and materializing is really exciting. I get a lot of my inspiration from different countries, different foods, different types of cuisine, because obviously wine and food goes hand in hand. And so because here at the wine shop we have over 280 different types of wine from all over the world, we have the luxury of really experimenting with lots of different countries, different climates, different types of terroir. I constantly in touch with winemakers from the places where we import our wines. I'm really hands-on with the vineyards, with the winemakers, and just talking to them and picking their brains and just finding out what inspires them to make these wines and what goes into actually making this product really gives me inspiration of what to bring here to Kenya and how to choose which wines. I also travel a lot. I also go to these vineyards, so I get a lot of inspiration from the countries that I visit, and I like to try to bring a piece of that culture and that passion back to Kenya. I think you can judge a country's wine palate by how they take their tea, and here we take our tea with about this much sugar and this much milk and maybe this much tea. So definitely the sweet palate is huge here in Kenya. But people are now moving to semi-dry, they're moving to Prosecco's, they're moving to bubbles, they're moving to Chardonnays, so more richer, more buttery, more creamy. And even with red wines, they're moving to more tannins, more acid, a little bit more citrus. So definitely I think we're getting there, we're on the climb. From my recent travels from South Africa, we experienced lots of organic wines. So farmers and vineyards are going back to the more organic techniques. They're trying to have more unfiltered wines, less sulfates, that's chemicals, less of the fining put in the process. So I think it's getting quite trendy to have organic, unfiltered wines. Their alcohol percentage is obviously much higher, but then the disadvantage for importers is that they don't travel as well and they don't keep as well. So it's best to buy them in the country they are and enjoy them as quickly as possible. They don't age very well. Blending is quite trendy now as well. So people are looking to blend certain types of grape varieties. A Malbec with maybe a Pinotage from South Africa. And I would love for people to just experiment a little bit more and move out of that box that they're in and just try something completely different. For ladies, I would suggest for them to go for a Merlot. It's soft, it's round, it's smooth, it's luxurious. I think they'll enjoy it. It's not very complicated. It's not like a Shiraz or a Cab where they have to actually sort of tune their palate and maybe have it with food to kind of break down the acids and the tannins. So I think Merlot worldwide is famous with the ladies, and it's an easy drink, and I think they'll enjoy that. And for the white wines, I would go with a Chardonnay rather than a Sauvignon Blanc, just because it's more rich, it's buttery, it's creamy, it's fatty, and so that also, and it's got a little bit of sweetness in the palate at the back. I always get this question, and this also shows sort of the amateur state that Kenya is still in, that the best wines are still made with cork. And to be very honest, New World wines are made with screw cap, and that's purely an environmental reason. I mean, we have limited amount of trees in the world. We can't age an oak wines constantly in new oak. That's going to have a huge environmental impact. So screw cap is perfectly fine, and it doesn't compromise the quality of the wine. It doesn't mean that it's cheaper. It's just a better way of preserving and making it more sustainable for the future. For people that want to get into this business, I think research and personal inspiration and motivation is a huge driving factor. How much you can take on yourself, how much you're interested, how much you're passionate about the product. I mean, you can go and study and become a sommelier or a wine expert. That takes years of knowledge, but it has to come from somewhere. The spark has to be ignited. So I think even for myself, conventionally, I'm not a sommelier. I would love to get there one day, but tasting is huge. Trying the product, seeing how it is, having your own sort of documentary or tasting notes or blog to kind of document your experience in the wine and how it goes with food and the environment and how it's made, the history. I think that all really is very creative and inspiring and will help someone if they're on the road to learning about wine to get to know more about wine.